Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest has a voice like an angel and a tender, heartfelt sound. As an award-winning singer-songwriter, she creates an atmosphere of intimacy and wonder, captivating listeners from the very first note. She is the recipient of the prestigious MARTY Award for Emerging Solo Vocalists and a nomination for Musician of the Year in 2023. She has amassed over 500,000 Spotify streams from fans around the globe. So, let's spill the tea with Adina V. I like the ring of that, Adina. Spill the tea with Adina V. You yourself are Royal Conservatory trained to grade 9 in piano. So close, Adina, so close. One more year, one more level, grade 10. What happened? Like, why did you stop? I mean, I think so many people are thinking, oh, you were right there, right on the doorstep. What happened?
I do play some grade 10 pieces. It wasn't a level thing stopping me. It was, if I'm honest, I wanted to use my marks. So in grade 9 RCM, if you get that certification, like that grade can count towards a grade 12 average, like for applying to schools. Mm-hmm. So utilitarian wise, there was no need for the grade 10 one. At that point, I was like near the end of high school. Stuff was really picking up, so I sort of stopped it there. But it doesn't sound like a very music forward thing to say, but
it served its purpose.
It did.
Toss it to the side. I'm done with it.
I do play some of those grade 10 pieces as well. So now I lean on that training a lot with just the pieces that I love to play. So I'm glad I made it that far, and I do still have the piano chops to play some of those really gorgeous classical pieces.
Now, Cawthra Park is well known for being a secondary school for performing arts. Many amazing artists, musicians, along with a whole myriad of other artists have come out of Cawthra Park. The jazz piano side of what you studied, was that Cawthra Park? Was that Humber, or was that something you did on your own?
It was a bit of both. So the tail end of Cawthra really, like, I'm a huge harmony nerd. I love harmony and surprising harmony and dense, rich harmony. And the tail end of Cawthra introduced us to some of that jazz harmony, which of course, like piano being my instrument, I was taking to playing those progressions and those big chords on there. And then in Humber, just being like, it is, especially the first 2 years, like you're immersed in jazz. So that carried through. And then it was also because I wasn't a keyboard major. I didn't study that at Humber, but through my own interest, I did pursue that. And as well, like I love to self-accompany. So I've played around with comping jazz standards for myself on piano and also guitar. So I have a background in that.
Adina, going from Royal Conservatory, which is traditional classically trained piano, going over to jazz, what were the similarities and what were the differences?
I mean, it's the same 12 notes, you got 12.
You got 12 notes. That's right.
You got 12. And a lot of my understanding of the music was by ear. So I had the theoretical foundation as well, but I started hearing things and familiarizing myself with them. And so it was just, it actually felt very logical to me. I didn't struggle with that. And same with like improvising. I didn't struggle as much with that because I'm a bit more ear based rather than being like so on the page and on the notes. So I didn't feel a huge difference. Like sonically, there's a huge difference. But my approach to it, because even with my classical pieces, I would be really curious, like, oh, what's the harmony here? What's the progression, even though you don't necessarily think of classical music as having a chord progression like I would. So it's all the same 12 notes. That's my final
That's your
final.
final answer? Some people have said that going from classic training to jazz, jazz is much more free flowing. You have a lot more opportunity to improvise in jazz, and that's kind of the difference in the training. What's your take on it?
Well, I can mainly speak from it from a vocals perspective because I don't improvise a ton on other
Mhm.
instruments, but definitely vocally jazz training is very different from classical training. Like I couldn't pretend that I could sing like an opera number. I can't do that. But I can sing the heck out of a jazz standard. And even that is very different from like my singer-songwriter stuff. It's just different approaches, but it's still the same instrument. Like I do consider the voice an instrument, and then you just kind of play around with what tone do we want, and there's different with improvising, it's all just it's idiomatic, so it's not like the world is your oyster. That's actually overwhelming if you think of it that way. So there are um, little phrases and licks and things that fit really well in a genre. So I tend to lean on that. It's almost like a toolkit. That's the metaphor I like to use. That you can pull out like, oh yeah, this would be awesome in a pop song. This would be awesome to do on a jazz standard.
As a classically trained musician, so going through Royal Conservatory, you take the theory. You understand how music works. Some people that have gone through that training they've been a singer songwriter before. Then they went through the training, and then they continue on being a singer songwriter afterwards as well. And they've suggested that when they go through the formal training, that somehow inhibits them from their free flowing songwriting that they used to do before, because now they understand what the structure should be. How do you feel about that now? You've got that training. You do the singer song. Do you find yourself sometimes restricted because you know how it should be, as opposed to, I wonder what would happen if I did this?
That is such a good question and a giant can of worms that I'm happy to open. Um,
Please do.
I It's one of the reasons that I don't write so much on piano. I write on guitar because on guitar I'm mostly self-taught. I don't really know my fretboard beyond the first position. I go into weird tunings. I make mistakes on purpose to find cool sounds that I have not necessarily thought of before. So from a creativity standpoint, I do I do find that on guitar I am able to be a little more free, and I can just with piano, it's like I know where it's going next because it's
Mhm.
all laid out for you. I know the instrument very well. Not to say that I know that I can go deeper into piano and explore things that maybe are not, like you said, part of the rule book or guidelines of this is how harmony works. That being said, I also think that there's a huge value to understanding it because let's say you're only like writing freely, but our ear does lean towards like, okay, 1 6 4 5. Like
Yep.
you're kind of strumming those things on guitar. Like that's the bare bones of how you write a song. Like let's say you study some harmony and then you're like, oh, I can use a chord that's not even part of this key, and that would take it to a whole new mood. Like understanding, I mean, for me it would have to be paired with ear training because just seeing it on a paper, like in my opinion, is meaningless. You need to be able to hear it and
Sure.
what feeling does it evoke? What mood does it set if you're doing certain things? Um, but 100%. So it's like a yes and no answer
Mhm.
because I've experienced both where there's like an expansion because I've learned so much and of the theory and harmony, and then also a limitation because now I might not try things that I'd stumble across if I had no idea what I was doing.
Let's get into one of the songs that Adina wrote. This folk ballad, is flush with soaring three-part harmonies, co-written and performed with Julia Title and Zachary Wilson Elliott. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Adina V and her song, Lighthouse.
We've never been perfect, but I'm waving a white flag, wishing you'd walk through the door. It seems it might not be worth it. I've been digging a garden, maybe one day it'll grow. Where are you now? Chasing the clouds. And I would fly to you if you let me. I'll love you as long as I live. But I don't mind if you forget me. I'll still be the lighthouse right here on the shore. You still have your moments with your hand on the wheel of the places you said that we'd go. True history owns us. It's been a few hundred years now. What's 7 more down the road? Where are you now? Are your feet on the ground? And I would fly to you if you let me. I'll love you as long as I live. But I don't mind if you forget me. I'll still be the lighthouse right here on the shore. Heads above water, hearts out to sea. Alone at the altar, you're finally free. Couldn't I be?
That was Lighthouse by Adina V. Adina, tell us what that song is about and what was the inspiration to write it.
So it's an unrequited love song, as many are. But this was written from the perspective of starting to be okay with the fact that, this isn't going to happen, but I lovingly let you go and I'm still here should you change your mind. It's that like wistful heartbreak where you're being the bigger person, but it still hurts, but you know that it's going to be okay. So like mixed emotions, very complicated feelings. But I think as you grow up and you're no longer doing like the puppy love thing of high school, you start to look at relationships from more angles and understanding the depth and sometimes the conflicting viewpoints that you could have on one. So the three of us got together, Julie, Zach, and myself. We were musical friends for a while. We actually met on TikTok and then realized that we're all sort of in the same area of Southern Ontario. Like, why are we doing stuff online when we could be doing stuff in person? So Zach booked us some time to try writing, and I think all of us were really surprised that this song kind of was born in one day. So we all started with, like, Zach had this chord progression that he was playing, so that's him playing guitar on the recording, and then Julie had more of like the thematic idea, and then we were kind of like filling in lyrics and melodies for each other, and it was a wonderful writing session. Pretty much got the entire song, and then took us a while to record it. This was maybe 2 years ago, and then last year we finally recorded it, and yeah, it was such a joyful experience. I don't collaborate much, and so doing that collaboratively and having the three of us, like, all singer-songwriters in a similar vein, we're all really proud of what came from the collaboration.
Adina, how do people find out more about you and your music? What's the website? What are the socials and the streaming platforms?
So my website is adinavmusic.com. That's kind of the one-stop shop for everything. My socials are linked there too, but if people want to follow me, I'm mostly only on Instagram these days. It's at Adina V Music. And then my streaming, Bandcamp, YouTube, all of those as well. Like, if you just look up Adina V, that's what everything's under.
We have been in conversation with Adina V. Adina, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, David.